Imagínate escuchar tu canción favorita como si fuera la primera vez. Te presentamos el totalmente nuevo y reimaginado Nissan Kicks con sonido Bose Personal Plus y bocinas en la parte superior de los asientos para crear una experiencia 360. Jamás has escuchado algo así. Reimagina tu música y tu forma de manejar. Descubre el totalmente nuevo y reimaginado Nissan Kicks en nissanusa.com. Función disponible. Bose es una marca registrada de The Bose Corporation.
Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening and welcome to WSBI, your Resource for Success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore. Our sponsor for tonight's show is 1 Minute Motivation Podcast. But welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have special guests Claudine DeSola and Janine Just, better known as JJ. Claudine DeSola and Janine Just are the dynamic duo behind the Caravan Social Club. Claudine and JJ had to pivot their business during the pandemic to keep things going, and so they developed a virtual entertainment show that also showcases brands in a fun way so you can sing, dance, and shop during their 1-hour variety show. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Claudine and JJ. Hello, ladies.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Hello.
So here.
Well, I'm excited to have you both on board. So, okay, we have 3 ladies. So you know how that goes, guys, right? I mean, for those who are listening.
A conversation with girlfriends.
Exactly. It's going to be fun. And of course, we're, as we talked earlier, like I always tell people, we're always behind the scene, as I say, in the green room, and we're chatting along. So we definitely have a lot of great conversation and a lot of good information to share. But what I would love for you ladies to do is we're going to start with Claudine first. Claudine, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about who Claudine DeSola is?
Awesome. So I have a PR and marketing background to start, and I also started in retail, focusing on experiential retail, and created a store inside a mobile vehicle called Caravan. So hence the name Caravan, and that's kind of morphed into a few different spots throughout the years, bringing us to what we have today, which is our Caravan Social Club. But prior to that, it was a studio out of New York where we would have about 500 content creatives visit us each year, actors, musicians, DJs, influencers, and they would come and create content out of our studio space. So we would have podcasts and magazine shoots and video shoots all happening there. And then when the pandemic hit in March, we obviously couldn't do live events, which brought us to how could we keep our community and bring it virtually, and that's how we kind of came up with this idea of Caravan Social Club. And the idea also revolves around retail, which is in my background, and PR and marketing, kind of utilizing a lot of the skills I have. The other kind of focus with my as far as what I do is also fashion show production. So that's another area where I haven't been able to practice as much lately because of everything that's happening, but hope to continue to do things virtually come February, and then do something big again come September, full runway shows again.
All right. Well, it sounds like you have definitely, I love how you guys tied what your name of your business was previous with the Caravan. But before we dive into that, I would like, JJ, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about who Janine Just is?
Yeah, I guess it kind of started at FIT. I moved from Long Island into the city at, 18? So that was just a rude awakening experience from a beach town to, the streets, the concrete jungle of New York City, and learning how to navigate. And during my coursework, I had to do an internship there, and I wound up getting an introduction to interning with, I know her as Gabrielle Bernstein. I don't know if any of your listeners are familiar with her, but she is rolling with Oprah and Super Soul Sundays, and I think she's like a 3-time bestseller. But I started with her in her PR company called Sparkplug, and we predominantly did a lot of hospitality. Her cousin was Mark Burbound, and I started out when he was working at Lobby. So we did a lot of PR marketing at these different locations, and I really fell in love with it. I was a fashion merchandising major, and I really just did not love the major as there was no creative angle. It was really just a lot of math classes, which I wasn't expecting. So for me, I'm not using my creative outlet. I just get bored very quickly, and I needed that. So I really did love the PR aspect of creating an experience. And I learned no matter what that experience is, whether it's a website, it could be an event, it could be even just a personality, a person, to create that for them, showcase an amazing time, and people are going to come back, and they're going to bring back a friend next time. They're going to bring back a family member. So I always utilize that in work ethics. So after FIT, I ended up doing very similar to Claudine's journey. I was in retail. I worked at the Gap on 42nd Street, not 42nd, 34th Street and Broadway. So I was there, and I didn't last too long just because I was making a ridiculous wage. I soon learned that a lot more to survive in New York City. So I ended up doing PR and marketing for a hospitality group, and they had 6 locations in New York City and quickly grew throughout the country. So I literally lived inside of a suitcase and traveled and would live in a city for 2 months and got to know every single person. I wanted to know everybody, the sports teams, the radio stations, the local papers. And it was really a great experience. It was a great time because I was young and able to kind of travel like that. But I was positioned to go to Vegas, and I slowly felt like I could potentially not survive that with, late nights and constantly schmoozing people. So I wanted to also kind of live in New York City, even though I did have an apartment there. I never saw it. So I worked for another hospitality group, and I really wanted to get back into fashion and beauty. So slowly kind of went on my own, but I was busting my butt to make sure I had a bunch of freelancing gigs that I can turn into client projects, and kind of just went out. And I think it was 2007 or 2008, a good friend of mine and Claudine, Sean Queck, who was also in the hospitality industry, introduced us, and that's how we came together. He was like, "You need to meet Claudine because you guys think very similar." And he was like, "It's really weird. I've never met 2 people that have like a similar parallel in their work ethic." So that's kind of when we met up, and we kind of started doing events together, and we kind of just started doing more and more projects together. And fast forward to 2020, we were about to go into our best year yet at the studio, and that just kind of took a pause. Wow. And just had to quickly learn the virtual space and figure out before other people did as far as what was going to get people engaged. How are people going to go online for events? What does that even look like? And, how are people going to get excited? Especially working with content creators and influencers and talent, and, how can we still gauge that community? But we found that, obviously with shutdowns, people really didn't have a platform to, still create. So we wanted to create that platform, and that's kind of how the Caravan Social Club came about.
Okay, so we're going to backtrack a little bit because y'all just told me everything in 7 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack with you, ladies.
No, there's
because...
more. There's a lot more. There's more. We have a lot more up our sleeves. Don't worry.
I know. I'm like, wait a minute. Now she just stole my question. Okay, so both of you are actually in New York now, correct? Or not correct?
No, I'm in New York. I'm in Brooklyn. Our studio is based. One of our studios is based in New York, in Manhattan, out of a hotel, which is unfortunately closed right now. So I've been working out of Bushwick, Brooklyn, out of my house, and running all these virtual events. We have, the Caravan Social Club, and then a few other kind of virtual programs that we put together. And then Janine, right before all this, she was, kind of mid-coastal in a way, traveling from Minnesota to New York for all of our bigger events.
Okay.
And then this happened. So she's in Minnesota. And the thing that is cool about all this is that, the silver lining is that it works, with us still, obviously in different states, because we're doing everything remotely. Even our photo shoots, we've been able to transition to virtual photo shoots, which, we've done some of the first virtual photo shoots with some really great bigger celebrities that had never done a virtual photo shoot before. So introducing that all to them and being able to work with other creatives from all over the world, so when we're in our New York bubble, we're only getting people that are visiting our hub. But here now, that's expanded so much. So that's a bit of the silver lining with all of this.
Right. Because basically, and we've all have gone through this process. I mean, all of 2020 was really about digging back down into reality and realizing that, the things that we used to do, we can't do. So what are we going to do in order to continue to not just survive, but thrive? And every story that I've heard and all the people I've talked to all the way through from March all the way up to now, it amazes me how many people have grown tremendously in their business. And that is because utilizing the technology that we have today has given them further reach, because we can't always be in the same place at the same time. And people are finally figuring that out, and they've had to really pivot. And that's what you guys have talked about. When I was reviewing some of your information, you talked about the pivoting and understanding, some of the struggles. So as you guys have grown and you've been working together for several years, obviously doing the Caravan, and it's morphed into this social portion of it, talk a little bit about the struggles prior to all of that. I mean, when this hit in March, what was your thought process, and how long did it really take you guys to realize that, we got to do something different, keep what we have, but how do we be just as creative?
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Terms and conditions apply.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built. 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
As we were, if people were standing in front of us. So Claudine or JJ, one of you two can answer that question.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll do a quick answer so Janine can weigh in too, but we're social people. We're Janine just talked about all the clubs that she works at, all the places. We're out, so it's really hard for us not to be social. Mm-hmm. So from a personal standpoint, obviously business, but also personal, we thrive on being around people. So, that was the idea. How do we still feel like we're going out on a Saturday night or on a Thursday night? Mm-hmm. How can we kind of still create that club experience? So that was definitely important to us. But, we definitely had that, oh my goodness, what are we going to do moment, because we, like Janine had mentioned, we're about to have our best year ever. So it, it was awful because we're like, we worked so hard, in 2019 to get to 2020, and we actually, ironically, in January of 2020, we had done an event with this office supply company with a whole 30 different creatives came in, and they were giving their 2020 resolutions, like what their goals were for 2020. And we did one of these videos too, and we had all these goals on the list, and then come March, we're like, we're about to do our event on March 24th. We had a big event planned, I think it was, and we knew that wasn't going to be probably possible. So it's like, what do we do so we could keep all these client relations, keep all these community relations, and do it fast, do it fast for both us, for our sanity, to be able to still be social, and then also for the business. So, but I'm sure, Janine, you will probably have thoughts on that too.
Yeah, just to echo what Claudine was saying, we were walking into 2020 like high-fiving, going like, this is going to be awesome. And then it was like, just kidding. We're taking that back. And we literally had to be like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Like how everything was on pause. Our client projects, were frozen. So we were just trying to figure out like, okay, we got to just keep going. We got to keep going. And a lot of people were losing jobs. There were a lot of people that, were struggling, small businesses. So we wanted to try to figure out like, how can we help? We're both like fortunate, and, we wanted to figure out, okay, what does that look like? So, creating a platform and creating the Caravan Social Club gave us a chance to really raise pretty significant money for different, organizations, charitable organizations, and even small businesses that we said, hey, if you have a few dollars, or, we also try to curate businesses that made sense at the time. So it was like, Bath and Body that came out with a new hand sanitizer where people couldn't, actually access hand sanitizer. Everyone was pivoting towards making masks. So we tried to highlight the sustainable ones that, had breathable fabric and, we can support. So we try to be smart and creative in that way. I think, every person can probably say in 2020 it forced themselves to be the most creative that they have ever seen themselves be. So it really forced us to, figure out what that experience looked like. And we had to do it really quickly. And it wasn't something that, we had to build it. So it was proof of concept. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of brands were pausing their budgets because they didn't know what was about to happen in the next couple of months, let alone, for the year. So it was hard to kind of get that buy-in. So we really just tried to work with organizations that needed the help.
Right. And so, what you guys have done in this short period of time, you both of you are about storytelling. So talk a little bit about that process, having to go from not being able to truly be seen in a way where people are standing in front of you, everybody's there, they're having a great time, and you having to refocus this in a whole different dynamic way by doing it virtual. Talk about, pick something out and tell me, how did that story come alive? How did you guys make it alive? Because you have now got this virtual entertainment that you do for an hour. Talk a little bit about that process. Janine?
So, sure. I think it was more so, when we work with influencers, work with talent, even work with media people, you want to make sure that they're not looking like a billboard. Or, we were both on that PR side where we had to set the cut and paste message and make sure every single person was, writing that same message. But every single person doesn't have that same story, or they are in their own way of kind of working with brands and working with messaging. So I think for us in the virtual space, we wanted to make sure that it was more about how can we help? What are you working on? Tell us what projects you have coming up that we can support. What are organizations that you're donating, your efforts to? How can we find out about that? We wanted to keep it more about education of, things that we can help support one another. And I think that's really where the word community came into play and was so important to us, that we were pulling in people that were just as passionate about, what we were trying to do. It was more about, having that platform to talk about helping each other, and then also how can we work with brands that understand that same way of storytelling. Because a lot of people, and it was also a good run for us to kind of weed out a lot of the BS of people that were just posting and telling tone deaf stories. So it was a big awakening to kind of say, all right, we need to trim the fat a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the other thought that I've had is that, we're also worn out, with the Zooming, the Teams, the Skyping, and everybody is on, line. We're all looking at each other. And like you said, I've seen a lot of and I think I even go through the struggle with myself when we're trying to do our own PR and we're trying to get people to notice what we're doing, is that it becomes so dead. Everybody's doing the same thing now that we have no choice, because we don't have that capability to just go out and, set up a party across the street or do whatever and prepare for that. So everybody's trying to do something unique and different. Claudine, talk to me about, and to our listeners, about what steps would you provide, and how could you tell us to liven up some of the things that we're doing for our own businesses? If we don't have the capital, to hire somebody else, what advice would you give us?
Yeah, I definitely think, with what we're doing right now, we try to make it very interactive, for sure. So I think making things fun is always that's like one of the biggest pillars for us, is that it has to be fun. We feel like, you just went through this, that there's like an overexhaustion of the same thing over all these Zooms, all these different Skypes, etc. So how can you kind of bring enjoyment to people so they want to come back? So if you can find that within your business, a way, even if it's a product, and you're producing content on social, having a fun spin on it, or having something that really inspires others, and that's through the keyword that we were saying before, storytelling. Really tell your story, try to get rid of some of the fluff sometimes, and, just really, I think it's a good time to also put yourself out there. We found that, we did a lot of Instagram lives during the last, I don't even know, hundreds of Instagram lives with founders and designers and models and all different people. And we were one of their first Instagram lives. And, over and over again, people were like, thank you for letting me put myself out there. And I think that that's a big message to entrepreneurs, to founders of companies, to listeners, is try it, try something new. If you haven't done an Instagram live, seek how you can do that. We met because I emailed you, I was like, oh, you have a fabulous podcast, and then we want to be a part of it. And it was a cold call basically to you. But I think that this is the time that we can do that. You can send a DM to anyone on Instagram and say, hey, I love what you're doing. Can we work together somehow? Collaborations, I think, are a big thing right now. And they keep you inspired. If there's something that's not conflicting or competitive, but might really gel well with your business, maybe there's an opportunity for a collaboration or an extension of what you're doing. And a lot of that can be developed, on DM, those conversations with different people, because you never know, even people that are part of our show, a lot of them, some of them we've known before, Broadway stars that we worked with, actors that we worked with, but a lot of them are people that we never met before, that were like, wow, we loved your comedy skit on Instagram, would you ever come on our show? This one amazing comedian that we love, John Marco, he has a show, Shelf Life, on Amazon Prime that came out during the pandemic, but we had him on our show, and he's been back a couple of times, and he's amazing, and he makes everyone, people love him, but he got a show on Amazon during it. So you never know who you're going to meet, by just doing, and that was just through a DM. I was like, I just love your comedy. Would you ever come on our show? And he was like, yeah. Same thing with this other guy, Michael J. Berry, who does skits of Schitt's Creek. I saw he was on a friend had done an interview with him, and I was like, he's fabulous. Do you think he would ever be part of first show. She's like, here, let's try to see. And then he was on our last show, and he's so awesome and so amazing. And like, never knew him before, just gave it a shot. So I think it's, now is that time where, especially if you're even a shy person, you're kind of, it gives you still the ability to like reach out and kind of break out of your shell a little bit.
Well, that I agree with. And I think that's, something that I always, like I said, kind of struggle with is that thing. I love to be behind the mic, and, people every now and then will see me, bring my face up on a video, but it's having to think about what can I do differently. And what you just described is, it gives you that little bit of, medicine to get out there and try to get things started. But then once you start this, I think a lot of times people don't understand is that you can't stop. People get excited and they get these ideas, but then they don't realize these are the things that are going to continue to make you successful. So why would you stop? And even after this pandemic is over, the biggest thought I keep having even run through my head is how many people are going to stop doing what's made them successful for almost a year? Will they continue to do this? Will they add on as a part of their current business? If they go back to doing other live things, with people being in front of them, what suggestions would you make for those individuals who are on that, kind of on that ledge and thinking that, hey, things aren't going to be like this for other.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Terms and conditions apply.
What am I going to do? Should I go back this way, or should I continue doing the way that I am? Either one of you.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Janine, do you want to take that one?
Go for it. I'll come in later.
So I think, for us, it's a huge question, right? Because we've gone virtual. Like, we're in real life events typically, and now these are all virtual events. And the big question is, are people really going to join virtual events after we can all go out again? And we feel like we've had to be able to mold this so that it could evolve to other things. Eventually it could evolve to an actual space, or it could evolve that Caravan Social Club pops up at spaces in a live format. It could also still live virtually, so that, we could have it be, something that people can watch if you're not here in New York, or if in LA, if we're producing, or Minnesota, wherever we decide to kind of have these pop-ups. But we could still have people watch, because that's like the beauty of it, is that there are people from all over watching, and they're conversing, they're chatting, you're like, it was crazy. Like, we had my friend Gabrielle Ruiz, who's was on the show My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. She's amazing. She has a new show that she's doing. She was on chatting, and so funny, she knew the tap dancer. We had this tap dancer, Andrew Niemer, who is, has been doing TED Talks, and he travels all over the place, and he's an amazing tap dancer, and, he inspires people through dance. She had taken his class. So it's just like, we didn't know that they knew each other, and same thing, like, we had this other dancer, Sarah Burke, that did a whole kind of TikTok dance for us, and John Marco, who I mentioned to you, he had taken her dance class before. So it's like, you just never know. And like, it's like people, from LA, from New York, and they're coming together over this virtual Zoom. We always say, like, we can't be in the same room together, but we could be in the same Zoom together. We can't do that live typically, but we could eventually transition what we're doing to a live pop-up or a live fashion show again. But we've been able to like learn so much that we can do digitally now with technology. And that's like another thing to think about for listeners, is like, how can you expand digitally now? Like, how can you make a bigger digital footprint? And that's what we're trying to figure out too. Like, we created this marketplace. Can we bring that marketplace to Amazon? What can we do to make our footprint even bigger? So even when things open up again, we learn so much that we can continue to evolve into the future, even if we're all going out, when we all get to go out again, we all get to support the arts the way we want to be able to support the arts, and not just on our little Caravan Social Club. We want to be able to go to the Broadway theater again. It's also to be used as a as an interview almost, or a jumpstart opportunity for people who have new shows that are live, and new book launches that they're going to be doing live book readings. So, we hope that it could be like a jump-off platform for some of those things. So we're everything we do, we're trying to think, how can this evolve? And I think that's important for businesses, because, like you said, you don't want to stay where you invested so much time just for this 1 year, and how that was going to do well. It's always, how can this then take into once things change back? But we don't know when that's going to happen. We also don't. I think that there's been a real opportunity too for people to enjoy comfort in their own homes again. Being able to. We had Netflix and chill, but it's obviously gotten so much more. Of people doing that. So the fact that you don't have to necessarily go, and there's the expense isn't there. Sometimes when you go out, everyone's saying even though it's such a hard time, you also have saved so much money too at a certain point, because we want to support all of our local restaurants and businesses, but then sometimes, especially in New York, it's ridiculous when you're spending $15-$20 on a cocktail, if you can, so do that, celebrate that, but maybe that's not always what you can do. So here it gives you the opportunity to enjoy the comforts of your own home, but still have enjoyment around you. So, these are all factors that we consider as we're doing this. So, things to consider for businesses too is how can that evolution happen?
Exactly. JJ, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think, as humans, we're always evolving. So even in the workspace, I don't think that virtual is going away anytime soon. And I think it's just going to be another offering for us to add to our services, our business models. And I think a lot of companies realize that they don't need to spend exorbitant amounts of money on office space. I mean, you're seeing it with new companies moving away from Silicon Valley, and they're going to Dallas. So, I think that's going to shift the workspace a bit. Maybe we're doing a 3-day work week instead of a 5-day work week. So I do think that, we're evolving, and I think this just sped up the process a lot quicker to be, in this telecommunication phase. And I think it's, while everything is crazy and, we can sit woe is me, and, how it's been such a mind shift in everything, I think we just have to embrace a lot of it and, be in the moment and try to make the most of it.
I agree. And so, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say something that Janine mentioned that kind of raised something to me. Is I think a big hope for us is I think it's nice to have big, flashy celebrations, but a lot of times it's a waste of money too. These special corporate events, they're so flashy, and they spend so much money just on flowers, and on balloons and all this kind of stuff. And, those things are nice, but what about giving some of that money back to charity, or doing something more, or partnering with creatives, supporting the arts, the money that they put into the backdrop, of a Step and Repeat, instead of putting the, $10,000-$20,000 there. What about supporting artists? What about having an artist at that event, or, bringing them to be part of it somehow? There's just so much you can do, and that's really what's at the core of our backbone too, is to hopefully see some more of that. With a virtual event, it doesn't cost nearly as much as a live event. So there's, that budget save where you can be efficient, and then use that money that you saved on doing good in this world, supporting people that need the support. So that's super important. I think again, another pillar for us is kind of being able to showcase and have those conversations with these corporations. Like, maybe you don't need, that chocolate fountain or whatever it is, at an event. Maybe you don't need all those balloons at an event. Like, here, save the money and support somewhere else.
Absolutely. I agree. You're absolutely right. Like I said, it's definitely made everybody pivot in a different way. So it's not always about how, like you said, how flamboyant you can be. It's really truly now, getting down to the nitty gritty of, show us who you are. What are you really about in your business, and how are you utilizing the tools that you've had from the past into the new? And you guys have definitely showed that and shared that tonight. But talk a little bit about, how do you guys get up, and what inspires you to get up every day and do this? What keeps you going?
I gain inspiration from the arts. I think all comedy and dance and all of that is so important. I think being able to also, I was just saying, be able to give back. I think that the world has gotten, even we were talking about this before, all these charities who have CEOs that make so much more money than they sometimes give to charities. There needs to be a change on how certain things are done. Mm-hmm. There's people that don't have food. There's people, that, need education. There's so much more that we need to kind of reallocate dollars. And it's nice to have events, and it's nice to learn and enjoy, but there's ways of being able to be inspired without having to spend all that money. So, it's inspiring to me to kind of be able to think that way in the morning, and to hopefully see that change. How can we do good through brand discovery too? How can we give back when we're purchasing something? How can we be more sustainable when we're purchasing something? How to create a better place. That really inspires me. And I have to say, one of my biggest other inspirations is obviously my son. He's definitely gets me up in the morning. But just being able to have time with him, I obviously have had a lot more time to spend with him. Mm-hmm. Even just not having that commute to go into the city back and forth from Bushwick, has given, I just have a lot more time. And it just, enjoying that time with family is definitely inspiring, because you want to do good for yourself, and you want to do good for your family and the people around you. I want to do good too for Janine, because she's my partner in all of this. So, all of that is just really inspiring.
Absolutely. JJ?
I'm grabbing the shoes as we speak. It's really, and Claudine. To add to Claudine, I would say that, obviously friends and family, and seeing friends that, have 3 children, and they're still running their business, and they're homeschooling, mm-hmm. and they're quietly crying in a corner because they're just I can't do it. But you're doing it, and you're inspiring me to make sure that I keep pushing myself. And I think this pause that we've all had, we needed to get off that 24/7 treadmill and mm-hmm. realize that was not a sustainable way of living and a way of life. And we all have to make changes for the better for ourselves, for the better for our family, for the better of humanity. So I think, to echo Claudine, we do have to add that ethos into our work and into even the brands that we select to work with. We want to make sure that they match that mission. So, I think there's a lot that inspires. There's a lot of bad out there, but there's also so much good. And we want to highlight the good, and we want to work with the good, and we just want to make things better.
Well, you guys are definitely doing that. And like I said, it's just been exciting and to learn what it is you guys are doing and how you guys have been able to come together, the storytellers, the artists, all of these things that you're doing that you guys have been doing, but then now you've recreated it. And I know that you've definitely had your challenge.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Terms and conditions apply.
Challenges in the process of doing that, and we all know just being women, it's enough challenge, but then have all these other things come into place. It's always amazing, and I always love to be able to have the opportunity to talk to women who are thriving and consistently not just looking at themselves but helping others thrive as well, and you two ladies are definitely doing that, and I want to thank you and say continue to doing what you're doing. And most people don't realize that listening to you guys and reviewing your background and knowing who you really are, I was like, oh my God, these ladies are they're ballers. Okay, you guys, y'all have no idea who I am sitting here talking to. And that's what excites me and what inspires me to be able to come on every week and talk to these amazing women and men that come on to my show and tell their stories. Because I think a big part of what people need to understand is that we are all human. And, we've been able to spend the last, 8-9 months realizing how human we really are and the things that we've had to deal with. And you guys have been right in the mix of all of this as well, but realizing that, family and friends is important, and having the time back to yourselves, but then also being able to utilize your talents and helping other people shine as well. So that's the most important part about being in business, is not just about you as individuals. It's really about the people themselves. But I have one last question that I always ask my guests. And, everybody is out here trying to make it happen. And if they're going into business, what advice would you guys give them coming into business?
It's all about relationships. So you never know. I mean, nowadays it's on Zoom, so you never know, like, your Zoom meetings, your Zoom calls, a quick, back in the day when we were doing this, coffee meetings, lunch meetings, dinner meetings, cocktails, you never know where those relationships are going to go. So as much as I'm sure everyone says network, just be strategic in your networking, but leverage your relationships, because that is how you evolve any business, anything that you do, whether it's creating a business or you're a director of communications or director of marketing, a director of sales. It's all about your relationships and how you leverage them best.
Absolutely.
And I think, having a good business plan, you don't have to pay someone to necessarily do a business plan for you. When I say business plan, I think just having some structure to what you want to do, like what your goals are. A lot of people, even a business plan could be in the form of a vision board. Having an idea of where you're going with your idea. So it's not just this concept that doesn't have structure to it is super important, because I us being creative, we come up with ideas all the time, but then if you don't kind of really formulate it, it will fail. So you want to be able to, take time, do your own workshop. Like if you're, solo and you have this idea and you're like, feel empowered to be able to like get a whiteboard out or, get that blackboard out and be able to put all your ideas on there, or put them on the computer or get a journal and just start structuring it into some sort of plan, and figure out, this year what you want to do, in 3 years where you want to be, in 5 years where you want to be, so that you have, a way of being. And those things are always going to change. Like we just went, like, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
You don't know what's going to be ahead of you, and those things are going to morph and evolve. But having a plan makes it feel like real. So that would be my advice. And my other advice is that there's a lot of no's. There's like the ratio of yes to no is like we were saying that we're working on this project right now, and it's a really great project, but we're going to get a lot of no's, and we even tell our team, we're like, you'll get one, we'll get one yes for 1,000 no's, just say. But that one yes is such a good yes that it doesn't, who cares about the other 999 no's? Because like that one person is someone that we can maybe work with, on this project, and then they're in our community forever, So it's like, it takes a lot sometimes to meet that one yes, or that one retail store that's going to give you the opportunity, or that one, marketer, or whoever wherever your business is, that's going to say yes. And that's okay. Like, don't get down with the no's, because, it's like, I always say it's their loss. When someone says no, they don't realize. So, keeping that in mind is so important, because it can get really, you can get really upset sometimes when you're getting no's, especially when you're first starting a business. But it's just finding the right yeses, because those are the people that are going to, that really get it. And, and they're hard. Yeses are sometimes hard to go by. But they're really great to celebrate once you get them.
Exactly. And you guys have definitely learned how to do the celebration dance, right?
Yes. We had Sarah Burke. She taught a great dance at our last Caravan Social Club. So we have our next one is coming up for Valentine's Day, and then we're going to do one for Fashion Week. So we always get asked a lot of times, like, how can we go to the fashion show, or how can we, go to a fashion event? And we want to be able to create something that people can feel like they're still a part of the excitement of fashion, but then there's such a foundation and story to it, because fashion right now I think is going through a lot of changes. So, but then there's a lot of really awesome fashion that's out there, renewed fashion, sustainable fashion, brands that have kind of been able to give a percentage of the proceeds to organizations, brands that have kind of gone a little bit smaller during this time. So they're so inspiring. So we want to be able to, show their stories and still celebrate fashion, because, we're definitely, we love our fashion. So, kind of incorporating that into a show. So we definitely have those coming up, and we'll definitely have dancers and singers and comedians and all of that part of those shows as well.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that show in February. That's going to be interesting to see it virtually. So I'm excited to learn more about that. So we're definitely down to the end of the show. So why don't you tell the listeners how they can get a hold of you and how they can find more information about the Caravan Social Club.
Janine, do you want to take that?
JJ, you can go for it. Go for it, JJ.
You can follow us on Instagram at Caravan NYC. On Facebook, we have an awesome private Facebook group, too, that you can be a content creator or a brand, and we actually share exclusive opportunities in that private Facebook group, and that is Caravan Social Club. And then the website, which should, cross fingers, hopefully going live next week, that is caravanstyliststudio.com.
All right. Well, I thank you, ladies, for coming on this evening with me. This has been excellent conversation and a lot of great information. So for those listeners, if you were not listening or you did not come on and listen to us live, you've missed out the live, but you could absolutely go back and re-listen to the show at any time, which I will talk about here shortly. But ladies, do you have any last words for my listeners this evening?
Definitely DM us. If anyone has questions, DM. We're always on Instagram, so we'd love to hear from you all.
All right, JJ.
Right up into those.
Go ahead.
No, say thank you so much. This was so fun, and I feel like you're a part of the community now, and we look forward to doing more with you in the future.
Well, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed this. And for everyone else, like I said, I hope that you have paid attention to tonight's show. We talked a lot about pivoting during a pandemic, and these ladies definitely can show you how it's done. I've never heard of such an amazing virtual live variety show. I mean, it's one thing to have people get on and do IG, but I'm definitely looking forward to see what you ladies have put together and excited to be a part of the team. And so what I want to ask everybody else is, what do you wish existed for you in 2021? What is your dreams? What is the things you're talking about and been thinking about since last year, and now we're in a new year? You don't have to just focus on it being in the new year. Realize that dreams can come true every day. Think about those wishes you exist. If you really want to sit down and talk about it, you can reach out to me at KimberlyWSBILC@gmail.com, or you can go to my website at www.wsbilc.com, or you can also join the Facebook group that I have, a Facebook group, I can't even talk this evening, on my website page, as well as actually on the Facebook page, which is wsbilc.com. And what we focus on is really everybody sharing the resources through the group. And then if you're interested in learning how to become an author or start your own podcast, I am the person you want to come talk to. Being that I'm an author of my own books and a best-selling author, as well as an award-winning author. Come on, you guys, there's so much more to talk about. There's so much more to share. Let me know what your dreams are. Let's have a chat. Reach out to me again at Kimberly at WSBILC@gmail.com. And again, ladies, like I said, thank you all for coming on again this evening. And I also would like to say thank you again to my sponsor, 1 Minute Motivation Podcast. So we're going to just take a couple seconds and listen to their quick track here, because they have an amazing podcast, and I'm just like, wow, to have a 1 minute podcast. So I'd love to do a promo on them, and so they were very gracious and wanted to be a part and be a sponsor of this show. So we're just going to take a second and listen to their promo. Here we go.
1 Minute Motivation is a one-stop destination for high-quality podcast and motivational videos. We create content to instigate and impact your souls to push forward. Our aim is to create a positive mentality in your minds in just 1 minute. We value time, as it waits for none. Check out our podcast and videos to get motivated and become relentless. Follow us on Instagram at 1MinuteMotivation_.
All right. Again, we'll be back next week with more amazing guests. Be sure to follow us right here on iHeartRadio. You can also download my mobile app on Google Play or wherever you listen to your podcast. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening, and good night.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Terms and conditions apply. People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Terms and conditions apply.